So, what were some of the key breakthroughs as a coach that you had at TSM?
Key breakthroughs as a coach was learning what coaching style works in esports. It's a bit different than traditional sports. Like my established coaching style that I had before was a lot. I mean, it was based upon my knowledge and also like the players respecting the knowledge and knowing that like I know the way to get better. And so it's like a lot more. It was difficult to get everyone to buy in if you aren't like a super good at the game. So I really had to learn basically what type of things the players respect, and like the things in esports that the players respect are one, like not wasting their time. And so like that doesn't mean like just like if you were talking like that'd be considered a waste of time. It just means like that you have a purpose for everything you're saying, and that it's like getting them better, and like you're not just like saying fluff or whatever. So it's like really making sure you're getting to the point and you're having a purpose and like you're really well researched and like they can understand everything. And then also like in turn with that, it's like they need to have convincing reasons of why things work and why it doesn't work. Like it doesn't just work that you can just say like, hey, do this. It's like you need to, it has to be more like, hey, do this because this, and this, like this shows it, like this research shows it, and like basically convincing them that this is the right way. So it became a lot more research based of a coaching style, and like trying to understand how each player is motivated. Because at first, like I met with all the different players and I tried to like understand what motivates them, what kind of things push them, and like how they listen, how they get coached, and what works, what doesn't work. But then when you start working with them, you realize that it's a bit different from what they think a lot of times. And so as for breakthrough as a coach, it was just constantly learning about the players and like how they work. Like I talked about earlier, it's really a personal job. It's not about the sport. It's about the player. It's not really so much about League of Legends and the game and what they're playing. It's like learning to work with their mind and like get them to buy into things. So I feel like I learned a lot about that in the first few weeks. I depended on just like my knowledge and structure and like improving things and saying like, okay, like you need to do this, this, and this. But I don't know. I just really learned how to get through to like these type of players. And a lot of times too for this, it's like you can tell them something and they're still pretty young people, like guys. So even if they fully understand what you're saying and they do believe that it's true and that they should be doing it, doesn't necessarily mean that they're actually going to do it. They didn't go to college. They are playing a video game, and usually they're playing the video game because they were playing a ton of it to get away from real life or school or whatever. They were just like, they got really good because they played it so much. And they may not have the best motivational skills or like self-motivation skills. TSM, the players, I mean, they're super committed and they have probably higher than most other teams of like how hard they work and the time they put in, but it still was a lot of basically making them do something first and then having them understand why it's important later. So try to like learn to get across to them and have them understand what they were doing and like why it was important, but then also learning basically that you can't just always depend on them to do things when you tell them something. So I think those are the two biggest things that I felt like I changed from the start. Was at first I kind of just like wanted to tell them to do things and just expecting them to go like to follow through with it and just like trust me that this is the best way. And then by the end it was more like making them do it, keeping them accountable for it, and then explaining why it was important and knowing how to explain why it was important effectively, so they actually bought into it and understood why. So I think that's like the biggest change from the start to the end.
That's so interesting because you think about it, and when you're in practice and the coach is like, run 50 laps, and if you don't do something, then it's 50 push-ups, or it's, you do these drills and it's just whatever you say, coach, whatever you say, coach. And to have a team where they're just like, well, why? Why should I do 50 laps? Why should I be doing this?
Yeah, especially like from the start, like when I would ever try to talk about anything out of the game at the beginning, like someone would speak up and be like, why aren't we playing the game? Like, why are we talking about this? Like, why are we not talking about the game? Like, we have all these issues going on in the game right now. Like, why is this important? And like, I encourage them to speak up and say those type of things, because I don't want them ever to, it's like, listen to me and just like have it go in one ear and out the other, and then like not say anything. And then I had no idea like that they weren't like listening or caring about what I had to say. So that was at like the beginning. And it's definitely, like you said, a lot different than normal sports, especially because like you know how to make it go hand in hand in a normal sport. Like it all comes together, but like there's definitely a divide of like the things out of game, like whether it's like going to the gym or like why it's important, eating healthy, sleep schedules, like getting along and trusting each other outside of the game, and like really carrying each other past just being teammates, and like more on a personal level, caring about each other so they can trust each other in the game. But like it's hard to convince them or just have them buy in about like why that will have a direct impact on them in the game. So it's just like a bigger divide on those two different things. And then once we started to realize, as like the season got on, and I also got better at explaining like why these things are important. And then we also started realizing that, oh, the issues that we're having in the game are actually, like they started to realize like they're actually directly correlated to these things that we've been talking about outside of the game. Like we're having trouble with communication, and we're having trouble like trusting each other's calls. And it's like, oh, like these are those type of things that we're talking about that aren't like that directly like gameplay related, but you can still work on outside of the game.